Hello and ski to you all. Welcome into another edition of the PHNX D-Backs podcast right here on PHNX. My name is Derek Montilla, occasionally known as your mayor of PHNX. This is my vice mayor and occasionally known as your thunderstick, the one and only Jesse Friedman. And Jesse, we are here in the middle of spring training, aren't we?
We are
smack dab in the middle of time and results that people don't care about, really. They're glad baseball games are being played, but at this point, I think we're all just waiting for the regular season, and we're not even halfway through spring training games yet, right?
Yeah, I remember when a lot of guys were asked about the initial excitement of the season on day one.
Yes.
A lot of them were very quick to point out that, like, yes, of course I'm excited today, but ask me again in 3 days and see if I'm still excited then.
Yeah.
But yes, the Diamondbacks do not play baseball today. And I don't know what to do with my hands.
We don't know what to do with ourselves.
I'm all out of whack today. I have no baseball game to cover.
I know. But, of course, the one thing we heard was it's like Groundhog's Day every day after that, because you just kind of get up, you do the same thing. You don't really care about the results. And then you wake up the next day, you do it all over again. Yep. That's where we're at. But, of course, the Diamondbacks are still working on a lot of things. A lot of the players out there obviously are working on things. And that's the reason why, of course, during spring training, the results, especially for some of the, I guess the main guys that you are looking at to have good results might not be there, right? Sometimes, especially pitchers are working on different pitches. They're working on just small changes, things that might help their game. Paul Sewald discussed working on his changeup a bit, a pitch that he doesn't throw. He has said in the past that he's kind of a two-pitch pitcher. He says people know what he's going to throw. It's just a matter of him throwing it well enough that they can't hit it.
Right. And this is something that he laments frequently, that I'm throwing 91 and I'm throwing a sweeper. And for whatever reason, because of, the arm angle and whatnot, Paul Sewald is still very, very difficult for hitters to pick up. But, no matter how good your two pitches are that you have, there's still a certain predictability factor that comes with any pitcher who only has two pitches. And of course, as a reliever, this still works. There are a lot of very, very good relievers in the sport that only have two pitches. But Paul Sewald said that he wants to be an all-star in 2024. And a way for him to kind of take the next step and reach that next level is to add a third pitch, and a changeup is the pitch that he has chosen to add. He's looking to use it as a weapon against lefties, and as we discussed the other day, he is setting a very, very high bar for this pitch. He told us last week that if he cannot strike out Shohei and Freddie, then the pitch will not survive to opening day. It's obviously a very, very high bar to clear.
Well, this is what he had to say about adding that changeup.
It'll be interesting to see, the one I got the first guy I got out with it was not well located, but hopefully that means the action was good enough that even if it's not located well, it can get outs. And then, it set up the last out. So 1-0 changeup, it was a ball. It felt like it had good action. It was a pretty good location. And then they got him out with the next pitch. So we're just going to have to work as a coaching staff and as a pitcher player and figure out how we think that I can use the best to be most successful during the year.
Why did now feel like the right time to try to add that?
I mean, why not now?
Sure.
Right? I guess. It's no secret this is an important year for me, and if I can have my best year, then that will be fairly beneficial for me as far as timing goes.
I appreciate his honesty there, right? Because it is about evolving. It is about getting better as a pitcher, but it's also a very important year for Paul Sewald as far as getting, being in a contract year and getting that new deal. He would love, I'm sure, to get that taken care of earlier than later and probably stay here in the Valley as a member of the Diamondbacks if the money is right and they can extend him. But that's kind of a risk on both sides at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, Paul Sewald, he's 33 years old. Next year will be his age. I guess this year is really his age 34 season. Next year would be his age 35 season. So I'd be a little surprised if the Diamondbacks were exploring extension talks at this point. It's probably something you just kind of play it out and see what happens. But yeah, you can certainly appreciate his candor there. As you said, this is a contract year for him, and it's probably no coincidence that he's choosing now of all times to add that third pitch and try to have that additional weapon in his arsenal. You heard him talk at the beginning of that clip about the two changeups that he threw in the game yesterday. It was his second game of spring training. And we saw two of them. I think one of them was bounced in the dirt, didn't get a swing, and the other one did get a sort of lazy fly ball, but it wasn't located particularly well. As he said, it was kind of up and away. Not a pitch that's like easy to do a ton of damage on. It wasn't really a strike, but not the place where Paul Sewald wanted to put it for sure.
Well, he did talk about, you asked him if he was maybe thinking about that after the way he performed in the World Series and the playoffs. And yes, Elise, he did address Corey Seager. This is what he had to say.
Were there, I don't know, like specific at-bats or anything in the playoffs where you're like, oh, if I had a change-up, like,
yeah, I mean, obviously in hindsight, facing Corey would have been nice to have thrown one.
Sure.
Maybe that would have been better than throwing a fastball.
Yeah.
Now, found out, that they had my pitches, so I guess it doesn't really matter what I would have thrown. So that's on me to just be better at that. So that's something we worked on. And I mean, in hindsight, sure, I would have thrown anything other than a fastball to Seager at that point.
Sure.
What does he mean there by that they had his pitches, right?
I did not notice that.
Right? He almost said he almost made it out like he was pitch tipping or something like that. Obviously, when you throw two pitches, it's not extremely difficult there to kind of
you got a 50-50 shot, basically, right?
It's a coin flip at that point, right? But yeah, maybe he was doing something that was tipping off the Rangers hitters there. I don't know, but I do know that Paul Sewald has all the motivation this year to have an even better season than he had last year. Hopefully we see that out of him. Right now, there was a bit of a drop in his velo out there at spring training.
Yeah.
It's not anything Torey Lovullo is super concerned about, but it is something to keep an eye on because like Jesse said, he is already hovering right there around 92, 91?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, you'd like him to be 92, 91.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, that's where he has been in the recent
But he's
past.
not there right now. Now he's throwing around,
88, 89 is what we've seen so far.
Fast enough for time travel.
In his, there you go, in his two spring training outings. So,
he understood that reference. Did you hear that? He understood that one. Well, this is what Torey had to say about not really being concerned about Paul's drop in velo right now.
Minimal concern. We haven't had a chance to know Paul through spring training, but we've had a lot of conversations with him. This is about, according to what he's been talking to us about, and he's gotten ahead of it with us, this is about normal for him. And I think when the lights go on, you're going to see things back to normal, spike up to normal. I was asking Strawmy as I was looking at some of the readings up there on the scoreboard if this is the dead arm phase of spring training. Because I was seeing some 86s, some 88s, and some 90s and 91s from some guys that are traditionally a little bit more than that. So we might be dealing with a dead arm phase as well.
Gabriel says they faced him all the time when he was in Seattle. They probably knew how the pitches looked, and that's a very good point. I mean, they were probably very, very familiar with him from his time in Seattle. But dead arm phase there. What is he talking about there, Jesse? Just where pitchers are ramping up and still aren't getting over that hump of where they should be velocity-wise? Yeah,
I think so. It's something that can certainly happen in spring training. We've seen this before, and when we talk about a dead arm in spring training, we're not talking about like an arm that is the word dead sort of implies that it's over, it's done. That's not really what the real meaning is here.
If you say something else like arm fatigue, that's actually something different. So it's like dead arm actually doesn't really mean there's anything wrong with you. It's just kind of a plateau.
Yeah, it's just like as you're kind of getting back into the groove of throwing every day and whatnot, it just takes time to really have your stuff pick up back to where it was before. It's a fairly normal thing. We actually saw this with Zach Gallen last year. Brent Strom told me at one point early in the season, you guys might remember that Zach Gallen's velo was down a little bit in spring training. This stuff didn't quite look the way that we saw it in 2022. And I don't remember it being said during spring training, but Strami told me a few weeks into the season that Gallen had been dealing with a dead arm during spring training. So yeah, it's certainly something that can happen. I'm maybe a little bit more concerned than Torey Lovullo here. I wouldn't put it at a 0 if your closer is throwing, you can pick up some velocity in spring training, but I'm not sure you're going to pick up like 4 miles an hour. We saw Sewald average 93 miles an hour with his fastball in the playoffs. I think it was 92.2 during the regular season. So I think he could get back like most of that. I'm not quite sure he's going to get back all of it though.
That's not good. That's not good. That's a foreboding
He's funky
comment.
enough that, I mean, he's never relied on the velo. Like, I think if Sewald averaged 91 that's flat this season, I think he could still be an effective reliever. But yeah, I don't know if you're going to average 88, 89 at the beginning of spring training, and then opening day comes around and you're suddenly in the 92 range. That seems a little far-fetched to me.
Well, if the Diamondbacks do plan on adding anybody to the roster, it's going to be a little bit difficult for them at this point. There's not a lot of room on the 40-man roster. In fact, they only have one single player on the D-backs 40-man roster who is out of options right now. The Emmanuel Rivera is the only player on the D-backs 40-man roster right now with fewer than 5 years of service time who is out of options. So
a lot of guys can be optioned, but Emmanuel Rivera is not.
Emmanuel Rivera cannot. Players with more than 5 years can refuse an optional assignment, which that's why that doesn't happen very often. But that kind of makes Rivera feel a little bit like the odd man out here because of the versatility of some of the other guys, and perhaps regarding that backup infield role might not be an option for this team. So I mean, that's just something to kind of keep an eye on, I feel like. Are we talking about overreacting? And it's always time to overreact.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to overstate this. Like, it's not, I mean, I know Mark Melanson, there were some times where his velo was down and that situation didn't look great and obviously didn't end great. I'm not super concerned about Paul Sewald. Right. I just don't think that on opening day it's realistic to believe he's going to be 92.5. I think and even I looked at his log from last season. He started last season with the Mariners a little bit lower. I think he averaged 91 in his first outing of the season, and then it did kind of go up a little bit from there. So even if he's in like the 90 range on opening day, it's not necessarily the end of the world. I think he can still be effective. But yes, going back to what you were saying, Rivera is in an interesting position. I guess you could make an argument that because he doesn't have minor league options, that he's actually more likely to make the team because the Diamondbacks don't want to lose him to another organization. Whereas other guys, they could just send them down and still, have them in the organization and have them accessible. So Rivera's in an interesting position. I think it's pretty likely he makes the team. He can back up first base as well as playing some third base, but that's certainly not set in stone at this point.
And Elise says, any chance we trade Rivera towards the end of spring training if it's looking like he isn't going to make it, just so that we don't lose him for nothing?
You could try.
We could try. I mean, the Diamondbacks could still pull off a trade with other pieces, and that just kind of frees up the roster spots, especially if they give up more players, obviously, than they're receiving in return. But I don't know, man. I think right now they're in a solid position. They do come into camp though with like what Torey said there in regards to Paul Sewald. They come into camp with a lot of guys that they don't know how they prepare for the beginning of the season. Not only did they bring in a lot of new guys at the trade deadline last night, obviously the new additions this offseason as well factor in. So there's a lot for Torey to kind of figure out right now, but he is very calm. He seems very okay with everything going on. And I think, again, when you compare where this team is right now to where they were at the same time last year, Torey has so many more weapons and so many more options to manage than he did last year. So I have a feeling it is exciting for him. It's not a matter of who they can get to fill these roles. It's a matter of which one of these guys they want to choose to fill those roles.
Yeah, absolutely. And Connor makes a great point that you can keep expanding the Goldie trade tree if you trade Emmanuel Rivera.
Yes, let's go.
Which that trade tree is still certainly alive and well because the Diamondbacks traded Dominic Fletcher to the White Sox. That's right. Fletcher was they took him in the draft. They received that draft pick from the Cardinals in that trade. Right. So yeah, Christian Mena is now
he lives the Goldschmidt lives strong inside of Mena.
There you go.
We have some other prospect news because MLBpipeline.com dropped their top 30 prospects for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and There's not a lot of surprises there, Jesse, but
who do you think was number one, Derek?
Is it Jordan Lawler?
You nailed it.
Oh, yes. I didn't
nice.
even look at it. Let's go.
Yeah, it's about what you'd expect. They have Drew Jones at 2 and they have Drew Jones at 3 and Tommy Troy at 2, which is kind of interesting. We have seen a little bit of variance in terms of which of those guys is where. They have Yu-Min Lin at 4, which is as high as he's shown up on any of these lists. The Athletic had him at 5. ESPN had him down at number 9. So they seem to be pretty high on Yu-Min Lin. They have Christian Mena at 11, which is a little bit lower than we've seen from some of the other outlets. They have Gino Groover at 5. Fantastic baseball name, which we've said before.
Fantastic, incredible baseball name.
I think they gave him a 60 hit tool, which is pretty lofty.
That's exciting.
It seems to be something that people are really believing in, his ability and feel to hit. So yeah, nothing earth shattering. I wouldn't say. It's kind of the names that you expect to see, but yeah, all the little descriptions and everything for each player updated. So if you got some time to kill, go check out the new MLB pipeline list.
Christian Robinson in the top 20. K-Rob back in the Diamondbacks top 20 for prospects at 16.
It's interesting that like ESPN and The Athletic didn't have him on their list at all, and then MLB Pipeline has him like right in the middle of their list. It kind of seems like outlets either very much still view him as a legitimate prospect, or he's just like fallen off the table completely, which I can certainly understand both of those perspectives.
Is it Hansel Luis?
Yeah, Hansel Luis.
Hansel Luis is an interesting because he comes in at number 6, and the Diamondbacks signed him out of the Dominican Republic in January of. What was it? It wasn't last year. It was the year before, right? And he is kind of. I've heard his name, brought up quite a bit, and now they have him at 6th on MLB Pipeline. So that could be a player that the Diamondbacks have got on an absolute steal if he could end up being a top prospect for this team. Right now he's in Visalia.
Keith Law was very, very high on Hansel Luis. If you go over to The Athletic and read Keith Law's, I think he did a top 20 list for the Diamondbacks. He viewed Hansel Luis as being a potential, I don't know if it was quite star level player, but like a really, really good player. But he's someone who you could see Hansel Luis in a top 100 list at some point, I think, as he gets closer to the majors. When you're way down in Visalia and that's the highest level you've played, it's going to be pretty tough to crack a top 100 list at that point. But he's definitely someone I'd keep an eye on for the future.
Pedro makes a great comment. Pedro says, not going to lie, the Reno squad is going to look hella nice. I can't wait to watch them here in SAC this season.
Yeah, the Reno Aces are going to win a lot of baseball games.
It's going to be incredible. We're going to go out and catch some of those baseball games in Reno for sure. And then Connor makes a great point. Connor says, Yu-Min Lin's ETA being this year feels aggressive. And it does, because he's still in AA. He's still with the Sod Poodles, and they do have his ETA as 2024. Just kind of a happy thought, or what are we thinking on that? Is that a bit much?
That is a little aggressive. I'm surprised they didn't say 2025. I don't think it's impossible by any means. He did reach AA and put up pretty good numbers at AA last year. So a call up toward the end of the year, I don't think is an outrageous idea.
We have a ludicrous video, by the way, if you haven't seen on YouTube, of him striking out a lot of the Arizona Diamondbacks best hitters. So that probably, I'm pretty sure we helped raise his stock up considerably just with that video.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we had our hand in that for sure. But
usually they're pretty conservative with their ETAs. So I do agree that 2024 for Lynn, it's a little bit aggressive for me for sure.
Ocean View Coffee Shop says Jake McCarthy starting. And we actually have a little bit more on Jake McCarthy, as well as some other guys that we feel might be a bit underrated on this Arizona Diamondback squad in 2024. So we'll get to that here shortly. But not sure what Jake McCarthy's role is going to be in 2024. But we do appreciate you guys being here right now in the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. Of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, we would love you to do so now. Make sure you sign up for notifications. That way you don't miss when any of our wonderful shows go live. And leave us a thumbs up. We always love our attaboys. Drop us that like. If you're listening on the audio podcasting side, we appreciate you guys as listeners as well. Make sure you're subscribed over there on your favorite audio podcasting app and leave us that review. We appreciate that so much. And also, if you are wealthy, first of all, if you're wealthy, DM me. We should be friends. We should hang out. I'm just saying. We can go on trips together. You could pay for them, but I mean, we'll go together. But if you are also concerned about your financial future and looking for someone you can trust, check out Desert Financial Credit Union. For more than 84 years, Desert Financial has been Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union. And of course, they are dedicated to providing financial services, and they have your financial interest in mind. Make sure you bank with an institution that has your best interest in mind. Join a credit union that is committed to giving back to the community and sharing success with its members. Right now, when you open a free checking account online, you can get $200 in bonuses. Get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200 today. Jesse, all of these Arizona Cactus League ballparks, they are located in some pretty beautiful parts of the valley.
Yeah,
and
some of them. Some of them.
Yeah,
but and Maryvale.
Yeah, Maryvale's also there. But also,
wow.
You can go on a wonderful adventure around the valley with Arizona Lottery's unique new ticket promotion called Arizona Adventure. And some of the locations that they have to check in at geolocated adventures around the state are located right here next to some of the beautiful ballparks here in the valley, as well as all around the valley or all around the state, including Flagstaff, Sedona, Prescott, and more. You can actually check in at these locations and enter to win a chance to win $1 million in cash and Arizona travel prizes. You can enter tickets online for a chance to win those $1 million in cash and Arizona travel prizes, or you can get down on their brand new Arizona Adventure Lottery tickets featuring 3 iconic landscapes. So when you check them out, of course, visit azadventure.com for more adventure on how you can take an adventure with the Arizona Lottery and for a chance to win $1 million in cash and Arizona travel prizes. Of course, this promotion celebrates state pride and the uniqueness and beauty of Arizona. Jesse, let's talk about some underrated Diamondbacks players for 2024.
Let's do it.
I know that there's a lot of guys that obviously have kind of been had a bigger role last season that might have been kind of cast aside a little bit with some of the acquisitions the Diamondbacks made. Also, some of the guys coming into this team might be a little bit underrated. So I just wanted to see your thoughts on maybe some of these guys that could be major role players for this team in 2024. And we're talking at a major league level. Now, some of these guys might end up starting the season in Reno, but just positional depth, injuries, all of that, we should be able to see most of these guys contribute to the team in some way this year.
Yeah, and I want to preface this by saying these aren't players that I think are underrated by like the larger baseball world. Although, I mean, I guess they may also be that in some cases. Yeah. But like, we're not talking about Merrill Kelly because I think Diamondbacks fans have a very good understanding of how good Merrill Kelly is and what he brings to this team. Sure. I don't think he's necessarily underrated by the fan base. These are guys we think
he's underrated at a national level.
Yeah, right? He's underrated at a national level. These are guys we think that you all might be underrating heading into the 2024 season.
That's so accusatory.
I know he really came with it there, didn't he?
You like pointed your finger at the camera.
Today. All right, Derek. First one on the list is Slade Cecconi.
Yeah.
Someone who I feel, I don't know exactly what the role will look like. He's certainly in the mix for that 5th starter spot that the Diamondbacks have. I would be pretty surprised if he won that spot. Yeah. I think it's more likely you see him start the year down in Reno, but also possible if the Diamondbacks decide to roster him as a reliever. This is something that Torey Lovullo mentioned the other day. I asked about how willing are you to roster some of these 5th starter candidates as relievers instead, and he said that is something that they've talked about doing. And I know that there are some guys they feel better about that than others. I'm not sure exactly who is who, but I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in 2024 you see Slade Cecconi play a fairly important role for the Diamondbacks, whether it be coming up as a starting pitcher, in case of injury or whatever might happen, or if at some point the Diamondbacks convert him to a reliever where I think he could be pretty darn good.
Now, Elizabeth specifically accused Slade of being a player that she doesn't believe in, right? I know that was one of the guys on her list, but so far, nice spring. He didn't allow any runs in his first start against the White Sox. So far, in 4 innings pitched in his 2 starts, he's given up 2 earned runs. Both of those were in his last start. Struck out 5 with a 1.75 WHIP. So, I mean, again,
he looked a lot better in his first start.
He definitely did look better in his first start, and you also have to factor in that, like you said, he is competing for this 5th spot, but he's probably a bit of a long shot as far as that goes.
Yeah.
And I mean, he could be a valuable piece out of the bullpen for this team, or just in general down the road when, you know, they might look to somebody else possibly to give them some innings. Like,
yeah,
you know, that's the biggest thing is no matter who wins that 5th starter spot, it's not a lock going forward. I feel like they're on, you know, they'll have a fairly short leash if the other, you know, candidates, the other people that Torey was looking at kind of are performing well. And that's, it's pressure, but I think it's the right kind of pressure.
Yeah, that's fair. You know, even if Slade Ciccone doesn't win that spot, which we don't necessarily expect him to win that spot, but yeah, if he starts the year down in Reno and is starting games there, he very well could still come back to the majors and, you know, slide into the major league rotation depending on how things are going. So yeah, I am especially intrigued about what Slade Ciccone could look like in the bullpen. The Diamondbacks have been fairly hesitant to make that transition with guys. They've been a kind of team that has really held on with some of these pitching prospects and really wanted to find a way for them to make it as starters. But I wonder if this might be a situation where that transition could serve them pretty well. Slade Ciccone is someone, I think his slider has the potential to be a very, very good outpitch in a bullpen role. His fastball shape isn't anything extraordinary, but if you put him in the bullpen suddenly, instead of 94, 95, maybe it's 96, 97. Yeah. And then you're talking about a guy who like maybe throws 97 with a wipeout slider. That's a pretty compelling profile for a relief pitcher. So there's a world, I think, where Slade Ciccone is pitching like fairly important innings near the back end of games at some point in 2024 if the Diamondbacks choose to go that route.
Another guy that maybe isn't underrated, but maybe he's just more forgotten about is Corbin Martin. And that's another guy that could end up being a valuable piece to their bullpen. Corbin Martin was lost all of last season due to injury. But when you talk about keeping the Goldschmidt trade alive, Corbin Martin, he keeps the Zach Greinke trade alive.
There you go.
So does Paul Sewald technically now because we traded Rojas for him. But
they traded some other pieces for Sewald, but I'll let it slide.
Corbin Martin, we'll focus on him for sure because this is a guy that, again, he's had a couple of injuries that has really prevented him from, I think, living up to the potential that a lot of people have seen in him. I feel like he still could be the pitcher that we've seen in the past. And I think, you know, now with the role out of the bullpen as a reliever and kind of focusing on that as his role going forward, he could end up being a dangerous weapon for this team.
What do you think? So I guess I'll preface this. Corbin Martin was a pretty legit candidate for a bullpen role for the Diamondbacks last season, seemed to be trending toward making the team. I wrote a whole feature story on Corbin Martin within the last week or so. Go check it out on gophnx.com if you haven't already. But he was in this race for a bullpen role before his shoulder basically fell off. And what do you think he topped out at velo-wise last spring training?
97?
98. 98 miles an hour.
I knew he threw 97.
He averaged right around 97. I have him averaging 96.8 with his four-seam fastball in the month of March last year, which of course would have been those spring training games. So he was really pitching well. Like Corbin Martin looked like not just a guy who could give you an inning here or there in the sixth out of the bullpen. He looked like a guy who could be important, who could be pitching important innings for the Diamondbacks throughout the season. Right. And I think he has a chance to do that this year. Torey Lovullo said the other day that he's throwing the crud out of the baseball on the backfields. We haven't seen him in a game yet. Yeah. I'm not totally clear on whether he's really an option for opening day. The Diamondbacks haven't, he's going to need to face some hitters in Cactus League games for sure before you're going to want to stick him on the opening day roster. But whenever he is ready to go, they're kind of slow playing him. I could see him being a pretty important piece for this team. Health and durability being a huge factor for him. And 100%. That's one thing that we haven't seen is really a healthy Corbin Martin yet at this point. So yeah, I'm curious, very curious to see how that looks. Of course, another guy that a lot of people might be both overrating and underrating on this team is Jake McCarthy. Sure. And Jake is a big question mark for this team. I know that he is beloved by the fan base, right? Like Jake is one of those guys that people quickly gravitated towards. They enjoy, he's a great personality. He's very charismatic. And I think that, he's one of those guys that
He's one of the young players that really had a breakout season. But Jake's had his ups and downs, and that's the problem. Is the downs at times have been pretty low in comparison to how good he's been at times. So it's never been a question about Jake being there for positional depth in regards to the outfield, but are the Diamondbacks really going to call on him this year? Are they going to look to other options, or what's he going to do in Reno? Is he going to go down to Reno and hit 400 again, and then come up to the major league roster and struggle? I just don't know what to expect out of Jake.
Yeah, it's hard to see him making the team, to find a path for him to make the team. I guess if Randall Grichuk winds up not being ready for opening day, that might be the easiest path for him, and that does seem like a real possibility. Not something Torey Lovullo is openly saying they're really willing to talk about just yet, but I do think there's a world where things go in that direction. But yeah, Jake McCarthy last year, he did spend a lot of time in Reno, which I know was certainly tough for him to swallow, understandably so. But he played 45 games there, and he hit 360 with a 416 on base, a 594 slugging percentage. I know it's Reno, but 360 will play at just about any level. He was really good down there, and if that is where he's going to start the season, he needs to go back and do the same thing. He needs to show that he rakes in Reno, that he has nothing left to prove there. And even though he's a little bit buried on the outfield depth chart, he's a guy who can really bring some defensive value in a way that Joc Pederson cannot, in a way that even Randall Grichuk probably cannot. So if they lose, an Alec Thomas, a Corbin Carroll or whatever for a little while, you absolutely could see Jake McCarthy step in. And we've seen the kind of player he can be in the past, and maybe he could give that to the Diamondbacks again this year.
4 for 18 this spring with 2 doubles, an RBI, a walk, and 5 strikeouts. So strikeouts aren't great there, but
he has not looked great in the Cactus League. There's no way around that. But it's not very many plate appearances, and who cares? So
exactly. Another guy that hasn't had a lot of plate appearances has been Jorge Barrosa. But you were telling me that you think he could be another guy that not a lot of people are aware of or are thinking about, but could be a valuable member of this team in 2024.
Yeah, Jorge Barrosa, he can go get it in center field, man. We have seen him play center field a pretty decent amount in spring training, and I haven't seen him challenged too many times. It's been mostly routine plays so far, but
does have 3 stolen bases.
Yeah, he can run a little bit. I think the hit tool is there. His numbers in Reno are not quite what Jake McCarthy's were. It would be hard to match that. Last year he hit 274, 394, 456 in Reno. So yeah, most likely he will start the season down there, but he's a switch hitter, which I think is an advantage for him in some ways. The Packs have a lot of left-handed hitting outfielders, right, who kind of fit in this mold of the outfield speedster kind of a guy. So him being a switch hitter, I think helps in a lot of ways. And yeah, it remains to be seen what kind of role he'll have, what kind of opportunities will open up. But I could see Jorge Barrosa getting some major league time in 2024 and see what it looks like.
Currently listed as their number 12th prospect on their prospect ranking by MLB Pipeline.
Yeah.
Is Joc underrated? Are people underrating Joc? I feel like they are. I feel like, even as you watch him in spring, the full effort isn't there, which is completely understandable because it's spring. But I don't know if people are really expecting as much out of Joc as he might be able to give the Diamondbacks.
He just like in 2022, Joc Pederson hit 274, 353, 521. He had an 874 OPS. If he had duplicated that in 2023 and been a part of this Diamondbacks team, he would have been the best hitter on the team. Like no Diamondbacks hitter had an 874 OPS last year, right?
Yeah.
So I just think it's important to note.
Corbin?
Yeah, I think it was probably Corbin.
Or Cattell.
Yeah, those guys were all bunched up together. Christian Walker was right there too. Corbin had an 868 OPS, so that is very, very close. Cattell had a 844 OPS. Okay. So yeah, I think Corbin was right there.
Well, like you said, he would have been statistically the best hitter on the team.
Statistically, he would have been, and again, he's a platoon player, so it's a little bit different. Corbin is playing every day. Joc Pederson in 2022, the Giants were protecting him against lefties a little bit. But even so, he has the ability to really be an impactful hitter in the middle of the lineup, especially against righties. And his expected stats really didn't fall off from 22 to 23, even though the actual stats did. So I just think it's important to recognize how good Joc Pederson was a couple of years ago. Yep. And how good he could be in 2024.
And you're right. He's walked a lot this spring. He has 3 walks this spring. So he will be that for this team as well. He'll be a guy that gets on base a lot, and he'll be a runner on base for this team a lot. Not a great runner, but a runner nonetheless.
Yeah, he will have to run the bases a little bit.
Correct,
yes,
correct. He will.
You might not be especially quick, but his strikeout rate was his lowest in a long time last year. His walk rate was his highest in a long time. So there's some promising signs for Joc Pederson.
The positional battles will continue. It doesn't sound like they have any kind of date set for when Torey's going to make any decisions on any of this stuff, but they do have a lot of things to kind of get figured out before opening day comes around on, what is that, March 28th?
March 28th.
3 weeks from tomorrow.
3 weeks from tomorrow.
So we will be, of course, here bringing you all the updates on what is going on with those positional battles and with these guys that we think can really contribute here. And again, we don't expect most of these guys to start the season on the major league roster, but this is a matter of guys that we feel are going to be sneaky good guys for this team and might not be getting the love that they deserve, or maybe might not be known yet, but might get that chance to be known by the fans a little bit more this season. Speaking of getting to know things a little bit more, let Damon be your guide to Illegal Pete's. He's there all the time, so you might as well just go ask him what's good anyway. Like go see what they got on the menu today, and then check in with Damon on the patio where he'll be enjoying Arizona's strongest margaritas and probably eating reverse nachos, and he'll let you know on what to get.
Maybe some Wow Wheats.
Let's go Wow Wheat. Oh man, now I'm thirsty.
Illegal Pete's has it all.
They really do. They also have an incredible patio. Like I said, they have a full bar, full menu, piping hot queso, everything you need to enjoy your week. Kick the Monday blues with $3 margaritas all day long, or ease your way back into the week with $2 tacos every Tuesday. If you work in healthcare or education, you can take your team to lunch at Illegal Pete's every Tuesday and enjoy buy one, get one free entrees. And don't forget to unwind after a long day at their happy hour, 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. every day. Illegal Pete's, your go-to spot for burritos, buddies, and beer. And Damon. Also, speaking of Damon, make sure to check in with him when you make your bets over at BetMGM Sportsbook. I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but I'm still fascinated by these matchups that they have for MLB future bets in regards to just 2 players head to head, who's going to hit more home runs. They have an incredible assortment of future bets that you can get down on right now for Major League Baseball. Not just MVP and Rookie of the Year, all sorts of other stuff too. What state is the champion going to come out of? You know, to smash that Arizona button right now. But of course, if you are in Arizona, join us, have some fun. Download the BetMGM Sportsbook app right now. Sign up and deposit at least $5 into your newly created account and use our code of PHNX when you sign up. If you do and you place that bet of $5, you will receive $150 in bonus bets regardless of the outcome of your wager. Again, sign up for BetMGM and use that bonus code of PHNX. Place your first sportsbook wager through the Sportsbook mobile application for at least $5. You will receive $150 instantly in additional winnings regardless of your wager's outcome. Check out the show notes for full details, and now listen to Damon talk about the disclaimer.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms. This promotional offer is not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico.
Oh, that was a good one. That was a good one.
Good. Yeah.
By the way, if you're not a diehard yet, get down on a diehard membership right now. You get all of Jesse's content. You get access to all the fun stuff we're doing in the Discord, including city council meetings, Squeeze Play, the only game show right now on PHNX, and all sorts of other discussions, as well as some behind-the-scenes looks from us over there at spring training. So get down today, join us, become a diehard. You get discounts with our partners, and you get discounts on our events, like our upcoming takeover of the Chase Field pool, where we will be there in person to defend the pool to the death if we have to. Right, that's the way that works. But
to the death,
the death. Yeah, that's what we do around here. We make sure that no one's ever going to celebrate in our pool ever again. But join us, become part of the family. We'd appreciate it. We love you guys for doing so already. Those of you that are already diehards. MLB the Show 24 has unveiled a brand new mode in their road to the show. It's called Women Pave Their Way mode. And per MLB the Show, for the first time ever, you can create and play as a female ball player with a unique road to the show story that evolves with the player over the course of your career. And I think that's incredible. I think it's really, really cool.
And the internet is in shambles over it.
The internet, of course, is in shambles. Can I say, I'm just going to say this as a father of a daughter, don't ever bring any of that mess to me, because I'm not going to hear it, right? Like when it comes to them incorporating women into anything, I'm for it. I love it in my comic books. I love it in movies as heroes. I love all of it, because for me, it allows me to share something like baseball with my daughter, right? If she feels excluded from it, we can't really bond over it. And like sports for women can very much be that. If there was any sport, if we're being honest, that women could absolutely play the same as men, I feel like it's baseball, right? I mean, they always want to talk about physicality and all this other stuff. Baseball is baseball. I mean, I don't care what gender you are. If you can throw a 98-mile-per-hour heater on the edge of the zone, I want you on my team. And I don't care what gender you are, right? But when it comes to stuff in video games, we're really going to nitpick about whether
that's what gets me.
Whether there are really women in Major League Baseball or not, or have this as a mode. Are you kidding me?
So yeah, since when were we using how realistic something is as a barometer for like what should and shouldn't be in video games, right? Just that general concept is outrageous to me. If I can create myself in a video game, it is about as unrealistic as if I can create myself as a Major League Baseball player, is it about as unrealistic as could possibly be.
Do you think he's going to put in that his weight is 145 pounds soaking wet? Absolutely not. He's not doing that. Come on, what are we doing here?
I don't think the game would allow me to put my actual weight in there. I don't think it would work.
No, this height and weight combination doesn't work. You're not a real person. But I mean, we've seen girls play in the Little League World Series. We've seen girls set the world on fire in baseball. It doesn't feel just like a lot of things involving sports and women. It doesn't feel like women are the idea of women in baseball isn't warmly received by people, which is absolutely absurd. One of the greatest baseball movies of all time is about when women had to take over and play baseball because the men were being sent to war. So, like, come on, what are we doing here? Like, first of all, we have some tweets here that I think illustrate the point we're trying to make. First, got Jared Carabas out here saying dudes are really getting upset that you can play as a woman in MLB the Show because it's never happened in real life, and then creating themselves as a playable character looking like Mark McGwire in 1998. It's a video game, my guy. It's going to be okay. What else we got here, Damon? Our girl Jordan says, how dare MLB the Show include women in my very realistic game that lets me make an all-star team of dead baseball players to go up against the current Los Angeles Dodgers. That's an absolutely outstanding point. And then Antonio just says, stop complaining that it's unrealistic to have women in MLB the Show. You can literally fly in the game.
Wait, how do I get my player to fly?
I'm not going to tell you.
What am I missing in Road to the Show?
You need that home run celebration.
Yeah.
And you need to
There's a home run celebration that makes them fly.
Unlock it in the community market.
Yeah.
Like pay for it with your show points or whatever they're called.
Of course, it's behind the paywall.
And of course, Damon knows. Of course, Damon.
And then you can equip it to your player, and then it's pretty beast.
Yeah.
But does that mean that they fly over home plate and therefore don't touch the base?
So there's on each home run
still
celebration.
Getting the point here, right?
In each home run celebration, there's three different like weird things that they do on second, third, and home plate. And the portion between third and home is the portion where he flies.
Okay.
I've had that equipped to my guy before. I can tell you that from experience.
I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, people will be like, women in baseball is unrealistic, and then they're winning their 10th consecutive World Series with the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah,
there is nothing realistic about this game. Let's stop it. All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, this is all crazy to me that anybody would be upset about an option where you can create a player as a woman and allow it to go down the road. Like, I was telling Jesse, my daughter made a character in a video game and then ended up writing an entire book series about it, right? Like, that inclusion is important. Like, what women are supposed to create themselves in a video game and make themselves a dude. Like, that sucks. We all want to make ourselves in a video game. We want to make it look like us. And I mean, that's what the video games now are going in, that direction where, you know, you can make it so detailed that it looks like you. It's a story about you, right?
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that women also are playing video games like more than ever now. So let's not act like they're not a decent percentage of the people wanting to play this, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. This is crazy to me.
I think also Major League Baseball, obviously, I mean, as much as any sport, really needs to be growing the game and doing anything that they can to grow the game. And I know this is MLB the Show doing this, not like Major League Baseball itself.
Sure.
But Major League Baseball certainly seems to be on board. This is something that Rob Manfred has talked about a fair amount, making sure that, you know, girls who want to play baseball have opportunities to do so. Growing up, those opportunities have not existed as much as they should have in the past, and we do have some examples now of women who are in the Atlantic League playing independent league baseball.
Chelsea Whitmore,
a league that is actually affiliated with Major League Baseball. So yeah, I mean, it is definitely a lot of progress has been made in terms of women being more accepted playing the sport. And again, a video game, I mean, you don't even have to have a conversation about how realistic something is. It is a video game, right? It is just for fun. You're trying to make it appeal to as many people as possible. You know, I can't imagine why anyone would really have a serious problem with this.
It's because people just react like this. And the craziest part about it seems to be guys who look a lot like me that just overreact to the situation, and they have been represented, you know, their entire lives in everything they've watched, whether it was comic books, television shows, movies, whatever, right? Like it's easy to label it as like, oh, the world is, oh, it's some sort of woke thing or whatever. Dude, it's just literally about the fact that women have contributed to baseball. There's more women in baseball as a part of baseball than there ever has been. And it's like Jesse said, at the end of the day, it's a video game. It's a video game. Yeah. And that's all.
I mean, the more cool things you can do in any video game, generally the better, right? Like I think
you can argue, by the way, MLB the Show has done a better job of growing the game even than MLB themselves, right? Like they made that Negro Leagues mode from last year such a cool experience from an educational standpoint. Like they made it not only very informative and interesting, but they made it look slick, and they made it just like it's just such a cool addition to the game. So like, again, if you don't want to play the video game as a woman, there's a very simple option for that. And it also could maybe just involve, I don't know, shutting the fuck up on the internet about it. Like maybe that. But anyway, I don't know. I'm still going to be in a little dad protection mode when people need to get so upset about, you know, women being included in stuff, because it's absurd to me. It really is.
This conversation, just more than anything, makes me want to go home and open up MLB the Show and do the most unrealistic thing.
Oh yeah,
like let's go create the 5'2" player who weighs 350 pounds and has a 99 speed rating.
Should we talk about how I created Jesse Friedman?
Oh yeah,
no way.
Yeah.
You created me, Damon.
You don't remember that?
Maybe no.
I think you were a fire.
I think Damon did tell me
pitcher,
this actually.
One of the best minor league prospects ever, right?
Yeah, he's.
Did he ever reach the major league?
I believe
level?
He's in the Marlins organization.
Oh yeah,
not even in the majors.
No,
Damon.
Jesse, I don't play this all the time, but every time that you went out there,
what are you talking about?
Every time you went out there, you gave 7 strong.
No, he's not. He's going to act like he's not aware of how long it takes to move through the minor league system in baseball.
Yeah, but we all know how
you cover this sport for a living.
Road to the Show has a way of making that process go a little bit faster.
No, it does not. When you play on a good difficulty, Jesse, come on.
That's fair. Yeah,
RA's character mashes 80 home runs and 100 stolen bases every season, plus the league NLCS and World Series MVP for 6 consecutive seasons on the Diamondbacks. How is that not realistic?
Fair.
How is that not realistic?
There you go.
Come on, what are we doing? The integrity of the video game is important here, folks.
I had an MLB The Show league recently where James Outman was exceptionally good, and Damon has been telling me all about how unrealistic it is that James Outman could possibly have an OPS north of 900, right?
First off, that is unrealistic. And second off, I just want you to have some self-respect and some shame.
Yeah, have some dignity. Why are you
I was building a team with like rookies from the 2023 season. It's pretty epic. It's a pretty epic
Trade
team,
him.
That I put together.
Yeah, get rid of him.
There's other rookies.
Cut him. DFA him.
I don't know who
this
I'd
is
replace
public
him
enemy number 1.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, Jesse might be public enemy number one after some of the things he said. But anyway, we do appreciate you guys for stopping by. We do appreciate you, of course, for joining us every single day. But we will be back tomorrow. We got ourselves a 6 p.m. show following the Arizona Diamondbacks spring training game. So we'll bring you some updates from that as well. Of course, big shout out to Chris. We just wanted to let Chris Melton. We're so glad you're here in the chat. No, we love you. We definitely miss our mom, and we hope we just want you to know we're thinking of you today on this day. Of course, in the meantime, you can make sure the rest of you maniacs out there follow us on Twitter. I am at cap_caveman with a K. Jesse is at Jesse N. Friedman. Damon is at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. There's some dissension about whose dogs
we are
on here.
We are Damon's dogs has become a pretty loaded statement at this point. There's a lot of controversy.
I feel like when we say it, it's not sincere any longer,
it's not
right?
sincere.
I mean,
we used to be a connected team.
We used to be connected and dangerous as a podcast,
and then
now
stupid Ryan
he's
Thompson
Ryan's
and
dog,
Alec Tom.
I'm Alex Dogs, and you're just Damon Dog. You know,
they had to throw a wrench right in the middle.
Yeah, but
we're no longer dangerous.
No, man. You can follow him at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. Of course, our show's at PHNX_DBacks, but all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Again, we thank you guys so much for your time. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 6 p.m. You guys have a wonderful evening. Sorry that there's no baseball. We tried to do something about it.
We tried.
They wouldn't
we tried to
us.
get a wiffle ball game going outside the office, and it just wasn't picking up steam.
Yeah, we should be playing backyard baseball or something right now. But of course, we do appreciate you guys for stopping by. We'll see you next time. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you don't underrate Joc Pederson.
We all silly like the mayor.